I-86 After Dark recommends simply the best cleaning services. Call 716-912-6940. Western New York's cleaning and restoration leader. From Buffalo to Long Island, this is I-86 After Dark.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to I-86 After Dark. I am your host, Buffalo Bob, and unfortunately, my buddy Tom Bujak, aka the Ginger Hammer, unfortunately will not be on tonight's show, but I will be having Damian Mike later, aka the Great Dame, and he should be here around 8:30ish or so. That's my estimate time. So you're going to get me for the majority of the show, and hopefully Damian is going to be here so that I can catch my breath at some point. I have a lot to talk about, specifically in the second half of the show. So with that being said, hope you guys are doing well, and it is June 3rd, and we are just under a month away until we get to the end of Season 1 of I-86 After Dark, which will be on July 1st, which is free agency. And before we go into tonight, I just want to say real quick that tonight you can catch the last interview of the season that me and Damian did a while back with former Islanders defenseman and original Islander Bill Mickelson. So if you want to catch that interview, be sure to check it out on Spotify at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as YouTube. You can catch all that exciting stuff. So with that being said, let's get right down to it. So we have a lot to talk about tonight, and we're going to start with the big one that happened in football. And we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now, and I think it's only fair that we bring it up once more because I think it's kind of concrete, set in stone at this point, about the potential relocation of the Chicago Bears to Hammond, Indiana. And let's just say, since last week, we were talking about either Hammond, Indiana, or Arlington Heights, and legislators and council people in, Cook County in Illinois were basically saying, whatever, we don't want the Bears here. Now they're paying the price. So pretty much it's set in stone. The Chicago Bears are going to be moving to Hammond, Indiana. So let's get right down to the details. So basically what we've been told is that the Chicago Bears are going to be moving to Hammond, Indiana, which has already been established. But according to Evan Sidri, I believe I'm saying his name correctly, he covers the Chicago Bears. I forget what source he's in from, but either way, he basically said, and I quote, that the Bears stadium bill in Arlington Heights does not currently have enough support from Illinois state legislators to pass the bill, which was on Sunday, and the Illinois legislative period ends within that time frame of 12 hours. So this whole bill expired on Monday morning. So there was nothing left on the table. And if no agreement is made regarding the Bears staying in Chicago, Hammond, Indiana would be the Bears' new preferred destination. Well, we've talked about it. Me and my co-host, Tom Bujak, we're talking about it within the last couple of weeks of how much of a fucking shit show that situation has become for the Bears. And for one, I think that it's abundantly clear that legislators and council people, politicians, and not just in Chicago or just in the Illinois area, but this revolves all the Democrats that were in legislation in the state of Illinois have all rejected the bill to have the Bears stay in Chicago. And Bears Muse, who we've mentioned on the show before, who's been a pretty reliable source for the Chicago Bears, they said that the Bears Arlington Heights Stadium project doesn't have enough votes from the state of legislators in Illinois to pass the bill, and pretty much it's dead and set and done, which is unfortunate because I think the Bears deserve to stay in Chicago. But at the end of the day, it's kind of bullshit. It's bullshit how the Bears are being treated. It's also bullshit how the McCaskey family pretty much put a bunch of Band-Aids all over Soldier Field. And then when you get to a certain point, when you take it off the Museum Historical National Landmarks of Chicago, Soldier Field was a national landmark. Now that's completely out of the table. That's kind of stupid. And not only do I think that the Bears are a joke and they're finally starting to win, sure, why don't you just kick your fans in the ball so hard that one of your nutsacks are not eligible enough to be in your system and it pops right out and you can't reproduce children? That's gotta hurt, especially if you're a Bears fan, because it's already like Bears fans in general have already went through enough shit. But basically, the Democrats do not have the votes within their own caucus, mind you, to pass the J.B. Pritzker bailout bill. And J.B. Pritzker, for those who don't follow politics, is the governor of Illinois. And his bailout bill in the Illinois Senate to keep the Bears in the state, which I've already said a handful of times. And lawmakers are scrambling, and I quote, to explore alternative options. But time is running out as the legislative session nears its end, which we've already established that the Bears, they're too much, they're too busy dicking around, because at this point, I don't see it how it's all going to play out the way that most people think it is. And I did some work on Google Maps. Hammond, Indiana is on the border of the state of Indiana, which is pretty obvious, but it's 40 minutes south of where Chicago is. But the nice thing is that you could take the train there or you could drive there. It's pretty optional, really. But it's such a shit disaster. It kind of reminds me of where the Jets and Giants currently are. They're called the New York Giants, but they play in New Jersey. It's the same formula. So would you still call them the Chicago Bears? I would think so. Even though they don't play in Chicago in the distant future, they won't be. I mean, I think it's ludicrous if I'm being completely honest here. And then Ian Rappaport came out with a statement about the Bears as well. And he said this on Monday, and this relies to all everything. He basically said the same thing I just said, which is that the Illinois House ended its legislative session on Monday morning with the final passage of a bill to keep the Bears in Chicago. And they said, quote, "We will finalize our evaluation of both Arlington Heights and Hammond and remain on the late spring, early summer timeline that we have previously communicated with, and we will provide an update when we have a decision to share," end quote. Again, I can't overstate this enough. Tom and I have talked about this topic for a little while now, and I think it's coming in bone dry to where the Bears are. And it's getting to a point where Mike Braun, who's the governor of Indiana, came out with a statement himself, and he says that he expects a formal announcement from the Bears by the end of June, signifying their intentions to leave the state of Illinois for Indiana. And Indiana crafted a stadium bill in weeks on end, while Illinois is still debating, which is stupid, like I said, about the ideal route to take years into the process. So basically, they're willing to do public fundings in the state of Indiana. And then on top of all that, it's crazy to think when the Bears were in need of a home for many, many years. And this topic has been coming up a lot lately in the last 2 or 3 years. It was abundantly clear to the naked eye that the Chicago Bears needed a new stadium. And the fact that the caucus and legislators in the state, they don't want to do shit. They've spent more time playing political activists than actually providing money for the income of their new stadium project. Because mind you, too, that if the Bears were to get their way in Arlington Heights, which would have been further out of where Chicago is, chances are pretty high, too, that if you think about it, that they would have been able to host the Super Bowl, the NCAA tournament, like March Madness, and a bunch of other things, concerts, etc. It would have been an all year round stadium proposal. It would have been amazing. The NFL would have made a lot more money, but this is not on the NFL. This is on the legislators in the state, etc., etc., etc. This is also on the McCaskey family because their renovations for Soldier Field is absolute monkey ass. No pun intended. But I'm just saying, it's crazy to think that it's taken this much fighting within the inner circle of the state and within legislature to even discuss this, because the fact remains is that the Bears, their fans are so loyal. I know they've had some pretty rough years when I was growing up because they've been bad except for a couple of years in my lifetime. They went to a Super Bowl about 20 years ago with Rex Grossman, and then they went to an NFC Championship game with Jay Cutler. But year after year after year after year, they just got shitted on, dude. That's just the Bears in general. The Bears are just a big walking meme at this point. So now when you come into question, it's like, what do you exactly do in that situation? It's like, and it's what's even worse is that today, as of Wednesday, June 3rd, is that the official cover for Madden 27 is Caleb Williams. Imagine that. Imagine telling your fan base, by the way, we're going to be relocating to another state within 45 minutes out from the city. Oh, and we're just going to put your star player on the cover of a franchise video game. And yeah, that's going to seal the deal. I don't know what's more embarrassing, the fact that Caleb Williams, of all people, was going to be on the cover, or the fact that the Bears are moving out. I'd probably say it's in between both. Like, yeah, it's an honor to be on the cover of Madden, but it also is a double-edged sword. So if you go into the lore of Madden covers, you know exactly what I'm talking about, which is obviously the Madden curse. So I don't know if this is going to be a blessing or if this is going to be a big disaster, because you can get any version of any of these players in the last 15 years or so within the Madden curse. It's pretty insane. But then again, we'll have to see what happens. And yeah, pretty much. That's all I have to really say about the Bears. Whew, that's a lot to get out of the way. So, with that being said, I think we're going to move on to the next topic. And we don't really have a lot for football, but just bear with me, because if it weren't for these two, then I don't think we would really have a full on show for football. But obviously, most people know about June 1st, which is usually when big contracts or trades happen, usually within a few months before the start of the season. And most people knew, and we're going to talk about both trades, most people knew that A.J. Brown was going to get traded. And most people knew since like March, which was when my son was born, since then, really, it's like A.J. Brown was going to get traded. Everyone knew he was going to the Patriots. We were just waiting for the June 1st day. It's June 1st, and it's been 2 days since the trade. And I think it's affirmative to say, let's talk about it. So now that the trade is official and we can all move on, here's what we got going on here. So the worst kept secret of football is that the Philadelphia Eagles are trading wide receiver A.J. Brown to the New England Patriots, according to Ian Rappaport, in exchange for a 2028 first-round pick and a 2027 fifth-round pick. Now, this trade, I think, could go both ways. I don't think A.J. Brown is as good as he was a few years ago. When he got traded from Tennessee to Philly, he was a huge impact. I know there was some in-house fighting with A.J. Brown with guys like Jalen Hurts and Jalen Carter, Nick Sirianni, etc., etc., etc. It's all guys with big egos. And to me, A.J. Brown is no different than any of those guys that were in that locker room. And I think it's so clear as well, too, that A.J. Brown desperately wanted out of Philadelphia. And the fact that he finally got his wish at this point, I think says more about him than it says about the Eagles. Because the Eagles, because Howie Roseman is a fucking genius, Howie Roseman was able to dump his contract, and the Eagles not only got rid of his contract, they also took out almost $15 million in cap space just from this one move. And the fact that Patriots of all teams were the ones really keen on getting A.J. Brown, that's fine. Because the Patriots have needed a wide receiver for a while. They thought their answer was Stephon Diggs. That didn't do anything for them. They think Demario Douglas was the answer. No, Booty is another one. And Booty might get traded. So we don't really know what's going to happen. And the only other receiver that I can think of that's on the top of my head for the Patriots is Romeo Doubs. Yeah, a guy they signed 3 months ago. So for me to think that A.J. Brown is going to just magically turn everybody into the Super Bowl contenders that we saw at this point a year ago, last season, everybody knows that, the Patriots, they had a cupcake schedule. And that's the honest to God truth. The Patriots had a tough-ass, runaway going into the season. They thought, well, we might not even make the playoffs and whatever. Then they sign all these veterans. And it's like, okay, could Drake May take a step in and be the guy? It turns out, yes. If you're a Patriots fan, it's like, oh, you guys are Super Bowl contenders. Yeah, just because you went to the Super Bowl doesn't mean that your team was legitimate. I'm just saying straightforward. And Tom would he would be like, well, fuck the Patriots and all that shit. I agree with him. But here's the thing. The Patriots are paying a big price. You're paying a first-round pick. We don't even know if you're going to be good in 2 years. That's number one. And number two, you're giving up a fifth-round pick in next year's draft. So in a way, you gave Philly more ammo to be competitive for years to come. You, on the other hand, I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen with you. How do we know that Drake May is not going to turn into Joe Burrow? How do we know that Drake May might, take a step back and might, have a downward spiral season? How do we know? We don't. I mean, when you win the division, you're pretty much given the option or given the opportunity to be the best of the best. If you want to be the best team in the world, you have to go through the best teams in the league. And the Patriots have a pretty rough schedule. And not to say I care about them, because I hate the Pats, but I'm just saying Patriots fans are going all over Twitter. They're going all over Instagram, all over social media, even on YouTube of all places, and Reddit, etc. And they're all basically saying what I'm saying now, that, the Patriots might be Super Bowl contenders. The Bills are probably, it's almost like you forgot the Bills existed. You almost like forgot that Josh Allen existed. But it's a new season. We'll see what happens. And I'm not counting on the Pats to even make the playoffs next year. But again, when you have a new wide receiver, so basically your two top receivers are Romeo Doubs and A.J. Brown. Yeah, that sounds like fun. Yeah, that sounds like fun. Okay, so we're going to talk about this last topic, and then we're going to get onto the second half, which is all hockey at this point. So obviously, A.J. Brown got traded. That was the worst kept secret. But one trade that happened that completely took me by surprise, and I'll tell you the story real quick. I was talking to a buddy of mine named Dylan, and he works with me. He was one of my colleagues. And I saw him the day of the trade, which was on Monday. And the next thing you know, I'm going up doing what I have to do after lunch, whatever. I have to run some errands and do some work or whatever. And all of a sudden, I got a notification because I was trying to catch up on some certain things. And the next thing you know, my phone is exploding. And it's like, what's happening? And I get a notification from Ian Rappaport, of all people. And it said, bombshell trade. And then the headline goes something like this. The Cleveland Browns have traded Myles Garrett to the Los Angeles Rams. I was just like, wait. What is this? What is this? And obviously X being X, it doesn't load up too well. So when you have notifications, it takes a couple of seconds. I wanted to make sure I was reading that right. And it's from Ian Rappaport. At first I thought it was a joke. I thought it was fake. It's not. And I think that's the crazy part. Is that a lot of people thought, well, Myles Garrett, he's one of the best defensive players to ever play the game, and he's a future Hall of Famer. But it's like, if the Browns are stupid, yeah, we know this already. They're one of those most poorly run franchises in professional sports. You don't even have to be an NFL fan to acknowledge the Browns are utter garbage. I'm just saying, it's like, you get all that information that came out, and then we're going to talk about it. So Ian Rappaport came out and basically said what I'm saying now. And that is the Cleveland Browns have traded Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett, to the LA Rams in exchange for defensive end Jared Verse, a 2027 first-round pick, a 2028 second-round pick, and a 2029 third-round pick. And this is from Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, and Tom Pelissero. This is, to me, the biggest trade that I have ever seen in my life regarding a star player. Myles Garrett is an essential talent. He is an amazing player. There are pros and there are cons. And I think that it could go both ways. Yes, the Browns could be competitive. Yes, the Browns, are usually competitive when they're defensively solid with Myles Garrett. But when you trade someone like that, you better damn be sure that you get a decent return. Because I'm not convinced that the Cleveland Browns did this because of Myles Garrett requesting a trade. I think it's because, excuse me, I think it's because the Rams saw an opportunity. They said Myles Garrett has a no-trade clause. Sorry, guys, my throat is a little dry. Myles Garrett had a no-trade clause in his contract, and he was one of the very few players in the league to have one. It's not like in the NHL where it's very common to have a no-trade clause in your contract. It's things like this that get you going. And it makes me question everything. It's like, what do you do in that situation? You just traded one of the best players to ever play the sport in this, not only in this decade, but in my generation. It's insane. As much as I wanted the Bills to get Myles Garrett, when he signed that deal last year, I said to myself, there is no fucking way he is sitting through that entire contract. It's not happening. And then he signed the contract in 2025. It's 2026. That's a 1 year span. Okay? That's a 1 year span of his deal. And he's already gone. Now, I want to talk about the Brown side of things here. I think what Cleveland did was really stupid because you don't trade someone like that. Okay, I'm going to use the Micah Parsons trade that happened a year ago. Micah Parsons got traded because he wanted to be paid respectably the money he wanted. Jerry Jones said no. He gave the money to CeeDee Lamb. He gave the money to Dak Prescott. And he got traded. And the Packers gave up 2 first-round picks, or got 2 first-round picks. You know, the Cowboys got 2 first-round picks for Micah Parsons. That's what I meant to say. And the fact that Cowboys even got those 2 first-round picks for Micah Parsons and others, that's a massive haul. That's the kind of trade you make when you get someone like Myles Garrett. Not whatever shithole of a deal that Cleveland said yes to. A first-round pick, a second-round pick, and a third-round pick. That's a joke. That is an absolute joke. The Rams are basically saying, fuck them picks. Fuck them picks. Because at the end of the day, it is abundantly clear that the Rams are going for it. They want to win it all. You get Trent McDuffie and you get Myles Garrett within the same offseason. That's ludicrous. That's highway robbery. That's astronomical. That's like legendary status. And Les Snead, the GM of the Rams, I got to give credit to him. He's running that team so freaking well that you are always competitive. You've been competitive since you've been the GM. You've won a Super Bowl, and now you just reloaded for the next 3-4 years. And you reloaded when you still have Matthew Stafford. And in the process of drafting or developing Ty Simpson. What the fuck? Oh my God. I can't get enough of this. Like, fucking hell, dude. It's the Rams. They're amazing. They're a very good, poorly run, like, not poorly run. They're an amazing team. There's no question. I think the Rams are going to go far in the playoffs. But we'll see. I mean, when you have that, you not only bring in Myles Garrett, you also have the potential, because there's also been a rumor that Aaron Donald, who hasn't been playing football professionally in 3 years, might come out of retirement. Yeah, I know Aaron Donald is nowhere close to what he was. But if Aaron Donald signs a 1-year deal with the Rams, who's going to stop them? Who's going to stop that front seven? Because when you have Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald, that's nightmare fuel. I'm sorry. That's nightmare fuel, especially for opposing teams. Now, I mean, Seattle won the Super Bowl because good freaking time, because your arch rivals just got better. And you added arguably the best defensive player in football. And you get arguably the best defensive end in football. It's all about structure. And the Rams have done a hell of a job doing so. So, I don't know. Like, I'm curious. Like, what's going to be the impact of the Rams? Because I, for one, am very interested in what has to be said here. Because, for one, you're paying a hefty price. The Rams don't care about the draft picks. They sure as hell don't care about the future. But they ended up using it for Ty Simpson. But I think what Les Snead has done has been astronomically incredible. I wish this is something that Brandon Beane could do. Like, I know the Bills didn't make the call for Myles Garrett because I'm sure they would have offered a first-round pick. I'm also sure that they probably would have, thrown other assets. But who are you going to throw in? Greg Russo? Ed Oliver? Well, whatever the cause is, I think it's also about the cap. Because to me, it's not saying much. Because the Bills, they think, well, we don't want to be like the Rams where it's a collapse. No, that's a stupid-ass logic. Because Brandon Beane's a fucking moron. We all knew that. But I'm getting off track here. The point I'm trying to make is that the Rams are competitive as shit. probably the best team on paper. No questions asked. You have the reigning MVP, you have the defensive player of the year on the same team together. This is like in hockey terms, this is like building the 2002 Red Wings. You literally are building a dynasty team here. Now, I'm not saying the Rams are a dynasty by any means, but they're definitely in that argument. They're definitely in the conversation for the Super Bowl this year. And expectations, especially now, are through the roof. So for me, I'm thinking to myself, well, they're probably going to run the NFC West and they be the number one team in the league next year. So I guess we'll see. You never know because LA is already spoiled with winners. The Lakers winning championships all those years. The Dodgers have won back-to-back World Series, and then you have the Rams. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into the second half of the show, and we'll be right back after these messages, and we're going to focus on hockey. So with that being said, I'll be right back, and we'll get going. See you in a bit. This episode of I-86 After Dark is brought to you by the Long Island Bills backers. If you're a Buffalo Bills fan living on Long Island, there's only one place to be on game day. Instant Replay in Huntington Station, New York, with 56 TVs, 4 pool tables, and an atmosphere that feels just like Orchard Park. You'll never miss a snap. Grab one of their delicious burgers, sink your teeth into their award-winning wings, or try their stacked sandwiches. There's something for everyone. So join the Long Island Bills backers this season and be part of the biggest Bills family on the island. Check out their Facebook group or just scan the QR code in our show notes to get connected. Go Bills! Welcome back to I-86 After Dark, and I am your host, Buffalo Bob, and Damian Microt, aka the Great Dame, should be here eventually. He should be here shortly, so whenever he comes in, obviously I'll let him in. But I am running the show solely tonight because Tom, unfortunately, could not make it. He had something going on, so I am here hosting the show. So with that being said, we're going to go right down into business because there is a lot to talk about. We have a lot of stuff to talk about the Islanders and across the NHL and all that stuff. So let's get right into it. So unfortunately, we have to talk about some deaths. And unfortunately, it's a part of life. But obviously, if you haven't heard, and I know most of you have, was last week, Claude Lemieux took his own life. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us. And he passed away at the age of 60 due to suicide. It's a very sensitive topic to me because I know somebody that's very close to my heart who took their own life at a young age from suicide. It's not fun. If you need any sort of help or need professional help, there's always availability. If you're dealing with any thought of suicide, don't hesitate to ask for help because it's important to get the help that you need. There's somebody out there who's always going to listen. Don't think that you're alone because you're not. But it's really tough because Claude Lemieux really changed the game for the better. He made it more competitive. He basically lit the fire on one of the biggest rivalries in the sport that's ever seen. Red Wings Avalanche in the 90s, the infamous hit on Chris Draper in the Western Conference Finals. It's very sad. But at the same time, he was a hell of a player. He won 4 Stanley Cups. He was a Conn Smythe Trophy winner. There's nothing that guy has accomplished in this league. And supposedly he was reportedly found in his business box in Florida. And unfortunately, he was founded by his wife and left his 4 kids, including Brendan Lemieux, who was a former draft pick by the Sabres. But he was also a hell of an agent too. He got contracts for certain players. So he was a very, big source to the league. And I think it's safe to say Claude Lemieux played a huge part of that. And it's really tragic, too, that how it ended because leading up to his death, the last ever appearance that he ever did publicly was in Game 3 in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Carolina Hurricanes in Montreal. He takes up the torch, goes inside, lights it up. That's it. It's really tragic what happened to him. And I really hope that we're sending out my thoughts and prayers to his family. It's really sad. I can't really put it into words because, like I said earlier, I'm not going to go too deep into it because I know somebody in my life who, at a young age, took their own life. And I was in high school when that happened. I'm in my 30s. So we're almost talking 20 years here. But it's really sad. it's sad, and I just hope his family finds peace. I really hope, because it's not easy losing somebody like that, especially something as unexpected as this. It's very sad. So rest in peace, Claude Lemieux. Will he get inducted to the Hall of Fame? I hope in his honor he does. I hope he does. He was one of the most clutch players to ever play the sport, and he was one of the most agitating players to watch. He pissed you off. You hated against you playing against him, but you loved him having on your team. And he, obviously, like I said, he won 4 cups. He won a Conn Smythe. He like I said, he put a stamp on this league, and I think that he's made it better from when the time he played. So, with that being said, rest in peace to Claude Lemieux. May God rest your soul. Yeah, so it's not easy talking about that, but it had to be done. So, I think with that being said, oh, and one more thing I forgot to mention about Claude Lemieux. His brain is being donated to science in Boston, and they're going to see and check for CTE because he went through a lot of traumatic injuries, concussions, and things like that. So I hope that they get the answers. His family gets the answers they want. So it could be CTE for all I know. So we'll see what happens. So moving on, there is a lot of exciting news coming out for the NHL All Star Game because yesterday Gary Bettman went up to the podium before Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals, which we'll get to that in a little bit, and he announced the All Star Game. And the way he announced it, I think, was very interesting. It's not going to be a traditional All Star game either. It's going to be a tournament, a round robin tournament. And when I saw this, I was like, okay, this is very interesting. So I'm going to read to you today what is actually being said here. So, with that being said, here's the results for the 2027 Honda NHL All Star game at UBS Arena in Long Island. And you could bet I will be doing a Road 32 episode of there. So here we go. So the game takes place on Saturday, February 6th, 2027. It's going to be a round robin 3-on-3 tournament featuring 5 teams. And those teams are the United States, Canada, Sweden, Finland, and the rest of the world, which there is actually another story that goes along with this, because the rest of the world team, by the way, is Russia, and they're eligible to play in the All-Star game. So the International Ice Hockey Federation has reversed a previous decision to ban Russia from all 26-27 competitions. It will now make a decision on Russia's eligibility in the future double IHF tournaments on an event-by-event basis. So that's a start. And the NHL has already said that Russia is capable of being at the All-Star game. So if that's the case, when they say rest of the world, I'm happy, because I think that Russian players in general got treated very unfairly in the last couple of years because of political ties with Ukraine and whatever. I think it's bullshit, but what are you going to do? But anyway, so those teams in those countries, each team will consist of 11 players. In the NHL and the NHLPA will determine 30 players from each team for fans to vote on. And the fans will vote on 8 players for each team. And the voting process begins in November, a month after or 2 months after the start of the year. Because keep in mind, the All-Star game is in February. The new 84-game regular season schedule kicks off this summer. So the very last weekend of September, because of those 2 additional games. So keep that in mind. And the NHL and NHLPA will choose 1 forward, 1 defenseman, and 1 goalie after the fan vote is completed. And ABC and Sportsnet are to broadcast it in a 3-hour window. So in America, ESPN is going to get the coverage like they have been in the last few years, which is fine. Because I think at the end of the day, I know a lot of people. Well, hold on, boys. Okay, so I just got a text from Damian. He said he's not going to be home or he's not going to be available till like 8:40. So he's not sure if he's going to still be on the podcast or not. Well, we'll just have to see what happens because, I'm doing this whole thing by myself to begin with. So, yeah. So it's going to be a international tournament. It's kind of like the Four Nations face-offs, if you want to be precise. The Four Nations face-off is a really fun tournament. And as well as that is too, it's a very exciting time because I think Gary Bettman is starting to realize that international hockey is starting to change drastically within the sport because I think it's gotten very stale within the last few years about whether or not um, that they go back to the traditional, 3-on-3 shootouts, whatever, things like that, and world's fastest skater, hardest shot. I think it's gotten very boring in the last couple of years. So I think when the Four Nations face off was announced, I think that completely changed everything. Because I think now, when you think about it, the All Star game, in my opinion, is being treated like an international tournament. Like, yeah, it was announced that they're doing the All Star game at UBS in my hometown. But at the same time, you're also making up for what you could have done 2 years ago. 2 years ago at that to the date at that point. Yeah, think about that. 2 years ago would have been the All Star game. But Bettman said, nope, we're going to do the Four Nations instead in Montreal and in Boston. Why didn't you just do it in Long Island? Wouldn't it have just been better? But I guess not. Yeah, so, okay. So the other thing, too, that came out, and this is also on the Friday event, is that each player will participate in four of the first six events, including the fastest skater, the hardest shot, passing challenge, one timers, stick handling, and accuracy shooting, and players will earn points based on their placement in each event. And the top four players will then advance to a shootout facing one of the four all-star goalies that chosen at that time. And the top two performers from the shootout will compete in the last event, which is the obstacle course finale. And the player with the highest cumulative score will be crowned the All-Star Skills Champion and will take a home prize of $1 million U.S. money. I think that's very interesting. And like I said that before, that so basically they're doing that on a Friday and they're doing the round robin tournament on Saturday. So that's the 6th of February. ESPN in the US and Sportsnet in Canada will present the All Star game on that Friday and Saturday, which Friday will be the skills competition, and then Saturday will be the All Star game internationally. And the Honda All Star game weekend will mark the second time the New York Islanders have ever hosted the festivity, allowing the 1983 event at the Nassau Coliseum. And the fans can then sign up to receive news and updates from the All Star weekend. See, I'm almost certain that there's going to be multitude of Islander players that are going to probably be voted into the All Star game. I'm almost certain Matthew Schaefer is going to be one. Bo Horvat might be another. So I guess we'll see what happens because we really have no idea what's going to happen as far as how the system is going to be played out. Because speaking of the Islanders, there's a lot of juicy information that came out within the last 48 hours at that time frame about the Islanders. So we're going to get into it. So on Sunday, Isles Talk, or through open conferences about the New York Islanders, about their plans for the offseason, it's being reported that the New York Islanders are going to Isles Talk. The New York Islanders are open to making deals. However, it falls under the, quote, you call us category, meaning there may be better deals from other teams at this time. But it also depends what you'd be throwing out there because not every player you're going to wish you could get is going to likely be available because we really don't know who's going to be available or who's going to be traded. No fucking clue whatsoever. What I will say is this, is that the Islanders have been in the news a lot lately. And the other thing, too, that I will mention, because, again, we are talking about the Islanders, is basically Bruce Garrioch, who runs the Ottawa Sun, and his sources are 50-50. You take it with a grain of salt, because I sure as hell am. And he reported on June 1st, which was 2 days ago, as of this recording, he said a league source executive told the Ottawa Citizen, that the New York Islanders are exploring the market for forward Matthew Barzal. Matty Barzal is a good player. But do you trade him? It depends what you get. Don't trade him unless you get something like, if you trade him to like Minnesota, I would want something like Matt Boldy back in return. Or if you're going to trade him to the Ottawa Senators, I would probably want a young player on that team, mainly like Brady Tkachuk. It's just how it is. If you want Matt Barzal, you got to give up something. Or if you're willing to trade assets and get a first round pick back, because Matthew Darche, as much as I like Brayton Chen, fucked up by trading that first round pick, which they could have used for a player like Jason Robertson, for example. Now, I don't know what his plan is going to be, because we reported last week that Darche was not going to do a buyout, but rather he's looking into the trade market. I could see him doing it. I absolutely could see him doing a trade market value, because you really never know with these things. But yes, so the Ottawa Sun, like I said before, is exploring the idea of trading Matthew Barzal. And Bruce Garrioch also mentions the Utah Mammoth kicked their tires on him last summer, which is very true. Because if you follow the Islanders like I do, there was a rumor that came out that during the time when the Islanders got Matthew Schaefer, along with the 2 first-round picks they got from the Montreal Canadiens last summer at the draft for Noah Dobson, great trade, by the way, because that turned into Victor Eklund and Keyshawn Aitchison, and both of them are doing phenomenal development-wise. There was a rumor at the time that the Utah Mammoth, when the name was just announced, a month old at that point, Utah got their name. And there was talks that Matthew Darche was going to try to trade up into the top 4 and draft James Higgins. But that didn't happen because Utah asked for Matt Barzal, and they asked for him or Ilya Sorokin. Darche said, no, I'm not trading you Matt Barzal. Now, because of cap casualties, and you get older, because this is how Lou Lamoriello does his work, you basically buy older players. That's what happened here. And then, what's it called? So last summer, they opted out of the deal not to make the move. And Pierre Brun last week said that Garrioch said the Islanders would like to clear up some cap space. Now, here's the thing. Matt Barzal is a solid player. The issue in the last few years is Matt Barzal got hurt in 24-25. 2026, he bounced back. But he didn't reach 20 goals. He was 1 goal short, but he missed some time. Matt Barzal is a good player. I'm not taking that away. He's the most skilled player on the team. But to trade someone like that is going to set Long Island into a riot. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that I'm following the trend by trading Matt Barzal. Oh, it's going to be the worst thing in the world. You have to understand something, Isles fans. If you're going to trade a guy like Matt Barzal, you better damn be sure you get a good return for him. Because if you don't get what you want for him now, because he's been on the team for 10 years. At this stage, he's been here for 10 years. And at this point, I think he's going to want to go someplace else. Because he knows he's getting older. He knows that his time is running short, even though he's 28. But you might want to trade him while he's still in his prime. And I think that would be solid. Utah was mentioned. I've heard Minnesota. I've heard Ottawa. Now, I don't know who they would get from the Ottawa Senators if it were to happen. But some people are saying that it's bogus. Some saying it's bullshit. It's made up, fiction, whatever. See, I've heard so many trade rumors. I thought the Myles Garrett rumors, which I talked about a while ago, were bogus. And then he went to the Rams, and that was it. Things happen in hockey that are very different. But here's the thing. It lines up with what LeBron said a week before when writing about Anders Lee, which is now confirmed, by the way. Anders Lee is expected to leave the New York Islanders, and he is going to test the waters in free agency. Honestly, good for Anders, because I love Anders Lee. No matter what he does with his life and what he does with his playing career, the dude's going to be 36 in July, and he's not getting any younger. I understand that he's a loyal guy. He's going to be an Islander for life. But I think at the end of the day, Anders Lee is going to be a good depth veteran piece for a team that could win and go big. I could see Minnesota making a swing on him. He's from the Minnesota area, kind of like Thomas Vanek. I know he was born in Austria, but he played college hockey in Minnesota. And I know Vanek hated his time on the island, but still, it's the same aura where Vanek didn't want to be here, and he went to Minnesota, and that was like the worst kept secret. Now the same thing is being said here with Anderson Lee, and he went on the air the other day. I think he was talking to Don LaGreca, and he basically said, "I love my time here, and I'll never forget it," all things like that. I will miss Anders Lee, but you also have to, if you want to rebuild and you want to retool and be a cup contender moving forward, these are the kind of moves you have to make. Not sitting here bitching and moaning, saying, "Oh, you don't want to trade Matt Barzell." Tough shit. If you have to trade Matt Barzell, that's what you have to do. It's straightforward, guys. This is not rocket science, okay? Matt Barzell makes around $8.5 million, $9 million. He's a damn good player. I'm not taking it away from him. But the fact is that if Matthew Darsh wants to build this team from the ground up, this is the kind of shit that you have to do. You have to be willing to make these kinds of sacrifices, even if it's going to bite you in the ass. These are the kind of moves you need to make. End of the story. But I think, though, at the end of the day, there's a lot more we can get into. And speaking of the New York Islanders, former New York Islanders head coach Patrick Waugh and Peter Laviolette, both of these guys coached the Islanders in two different eras. Both of them were given permission to talk to the Toronto Maple Leafs because Waugh's still under contract for another year, and Laviolette's contract with the Rangers ends on June 30th. So both of these guys are available for the Leafs to talk to. And the funny thing is that the Leafs wanted to talk to the Denver Pioneers head coach, Dave Carl, the University of Denver head coach. Dave Carl is a good college hockey coach. And the Toronto Maple Leafs have this infatuation about analytics because, remember, John Chaika is now the new GM and Matt Sundin is the new president. So they're all about analytics. Even if you draft Gavin McKenna, which we know that it's the worst kept secret, they're going to draft Gavin McKenna because they'd be really stupid not to. But aside the point, I think it's funny how the Leafs, they wanted to get Pete DeBoer. The Islanders grabbed him within 2 months before he was available. The Oilers wanted to talk to Bruce Cassidy. The Golden Knights said no. David Carl said, "I'm not interviewing for the Leafs." I don't blame the guy. The Leafs suck. And yet, Patrick Waugh was brought up as a candidate for the job. Same with Peter Laviolette. And I find that incredibly funny how it completely 180s the whole team. It's almost like you're trying to be the Islanders, but with more higher end talent. Tavares, and then you hire whoever whoever the Leafs hire. Because it's the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we all know that they're going to do something stupid. Because that's just how they are. They're a bunch of jackasses. But who do we know, right? But while we're still on the topic of the Islanders, by the way, I should mention that they're also bringing in Jay McKee, yes, the former defenseman of the Buffalo Sabres and the former head coach of the Kitchener Rangers in the OHL. He is now the new head coach of the Hamilton Hammers. Yep, the Islanders said we're going to hire him as the new head coach. I'm not too keen on this. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't want to act like I know Jake McKee's coaching career. Yeah, I know he won a championship with the Kitchener Rangers, but that's developmental junior hockey. This is not the pros. But if Jake McKee proves that he could be a good AHL coach, if somebody gets fired down the road, I could see somebody, taking a swing at him. But we'll see. But it's funny in a way, like going back to what I was saying before about Patrick Waugh, Pete DeBoer was going to be the top coach in the free agent market this summer if the Islanders did not grab him. If they waited until they fired Patrick Waugh the way they did, I don't think they would have had their chance on him. But the only question is, why didn't you get John Tortorella when he was available? I mean, look what he's done now in Vegas, which we'll get to in a second. But I get why Matthew Darsh is so keen on Pete DeBoer. He's a good coach. But at the same time, look at all the other teams struggling to find coaches. Toronto needs a head coach. Edmonton needs a head coach. LA needs a head coach. 3 teams on the top of my head need head coaches. There was talks of Jared Bendor being let go, but that's not happening either because Joe Sakic is now back in the house as GM. And Chris McFarland is going to the Nashville Predators as their new GM. So it's funny how things work like that. It really does. I mean, I love the offseason. There's no question about that. But I just find it incredibly funny with how everything worked out. So there's that. But so we have a lot to get into. And one of the stories that came out was recently, uh, we all know about Connor McDavid. And Connor McDavid has 1 year left on his current deal with the Edmonton Oilers. And Leon Draisaitl is getting pissed off too. The Oilers are a shit show because you get rid of Chris Nolbach, and now you need a new head coach. You're not getting Jay Woodcroft back because you fired his ass. So the funny thing Mo Bodon, I think I'm saying his name right. Mark Oliver Bodon, I think I'm saying it correctly, reports that if Connor McDavid were to leave the Edmonton Oilers, the Montreal Canadiens could be an option or one of the few teams that he prefers to go to. And during his first visit for the Montreal Grand Prix, McDavid reportedly toured the neighborhoods in Brossard and Westmount in Montreal. And the Canadiens and Rangers are also believed to be among the select destinations that he would consider, whether through via trade or free agency, in 2028. That's 2 years from now. And you're telling me Connor McDavid is going to want to stay in Edmonton? Why not this offseason? I mean, if the Oilers are such a fucking disaster, because they are, yeah, I know they make the playoffs every year, but they're a joke. They don't know what they're doing. They've wasted the prime years of McDavid. They've wasted the prime years of Draisaitl. You had two opportunities to win the Stanley Cup in back-to-back years, and you blew it both times to a team that's in a lower, higher, hockey margin in South Florida. Congratulations. But I think the biggest thing that also came out that recently was in play was the Vancouver Canucks, because this is a juicy story. And former head coach Bruce Boudreau came out with a statement revolving around the new boys club in Vancouver because of all the moves that they've made. So to give you an idea what's happening here is, if you remember a few years ago, Bruce Boudreau was the head coach for Vancouver for about 2 years. And instead of firing him privately like any other team would, they humiliated him on national television in the Canadian region and made the poor man cry. And he's like, well, this is it. I don't want to coach here anymore. And he knew he was getting fired, but they did him dirty, dude, because that's how much of a shit show the Canucks are. So the story is that the Vancouver Canucks were making a managerial change. They get rid of Patrick Allvin, who was one of the masterminds behind the whole Boudreau compadre to begin with, and then Jim Rutherford leaves as the president of hockey operations. So there's your clean slate for the Vancouver Canucks. It's also being said that the Vancouver Canucks also fired head coach Adam Foote. And the funny thing is, I was in Skagway, Alaska at their time. As soon as I got off the boat last summer, I saw the news in Alaska that Vancouver was going to hire Adam Foote. And I laughed my ass off because I'm like in a public area and I'm looking at this. I'm like, that is the stupidest fucking thing that I have ever seen in my life. Talk about stupidity at its finest. So you get rid of the old guard and you bring in a new guys. You bring in Daniel Henriksen as the president of hockey operations. You bring in Ryan Johnson, who was already within the organization, from as assistant GM to the GM. And then the new head coach is Manny Malhotra, a former Vancouver Canuck, as your new head coach. It's almost like you've learned nothing. It's almost like you've learned nothing. Oh, Vancouver. You guys are pathetic. But as far as I'm concerned, you're not only the shittiest team in the league, you also got the third overall pick. So that's not saying much for whoever you draft. But Bruce Boudreau came out and said within the new management, and I quote, I think those three guys are going to be so much better to who have Jim and Patrick Allvin there, and who did whatever Jim wanted anyway, so it didn't really matter if Patrick was there or not. And this was on the Fellowship of the Ring podcast. And I think it's interesting that he brings this up because Jim Rutherford was all about control, whether it was in Carolina, whether it was in Pittsburgh, or it was in Vancouver. At the end of the day, when you think about all that stuff, it's funny how one of the most respected coaches in the league, who never won a Stanley Cup, unfortunately, and one of the best coaching prospects in the late 2000s, in Bruce Boudreau, gets treated like shit. Yeah, he had great seasons with the Capitals, couldn't get it done. He had great seasons with Anaheim, couldn't get the job done. He went to Minnesota, couldn't do as much as he thought. Then he goes to Vancouver, and now he's not even coaching. The dude hasn't been coaching in like 3 or 4 years. That's how bad and how fucked up it is that the Vancouver Canucks treated that guy. I don't think he wants to be in the spotlight like that ever again because it's a joke. It's an absolute joke that the Canucks are literally doing this. You're literally bringing in guys who you thought was going to turn your team around from that to making them into a boys' club. That's a joke. That is a goddamn joke with what the Vancouver Canucks have become. And speaking of jokes, because I can sure as hell laugh, is supposedly the Vancouver Canucks are also open to the idea of trading Jacob DeBrusk. And one team has surfaced, from the surface that at least has scratched it. One team that has come up in terms of this talk is the Buffalo Sabres. And I wish Tom was here because he would have been like, well, the Sabres can really use Jacob DeBrusk, I think he could be a very good player. And Damian would be like, yeah, I could see the Canucks, or I could see the Sabres doing that. Thanks, boys. I appreciate that. So now the talk is that there's supposedly a big rumor going around that rumors are heating up as a connective deal between the Vancouver Canucks and the Buffalo Sabres. And GM Jarmo Kekalainen was a war chest of draft picks and prospects that could make it happen. But the real question is, would DeBrusk waive his no movement clause to join the Sabres' rising core? Now, you know what I will say is this. This is exactly what he's going to bring to Buffalo. He's going to bring 20-plus goals, consistency, and has a serious pedigree in the playoffs. But at what cost, though? What do you give up? You're definitely not giving up a first-round pick because he is not first-round pick material. As good as Jake DeBrusk is, he's not like what he was with the Boston Bruins. The dude's on the Canucks, for Christ's sake. But he would be a good third-line winger, I think. Because, believe me, I think that he could really fill in with that room. I think the Sabres have some pieces that they would like to move. Maybe like Devin Levi, Michael Kesselring, supposedly he was available. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. But I can also see them being in the range for like Connor Hellebuyck, because we talked about that briefly as well, that Connor Hellebuyck could be available. But we'll see what happens. So, and one of the topics that I wanted to save, because we're getting towards the end, and we have 2 more topics to go. It feels different when my 2 co-hosts are not here and I'm the only one doing it. So for those of you listening at home, I appreciate it. So it is being reported that the Dallas Stars are going to be relocating. And I saw that. I'm like, really? They're moving? And supposedly they're going to be moving to Plano, Texas, which is 40 minutes south of Dallas. So I'm thinking to myself, wait. I haven't heard anything about the Dallas Stars moving. But then the Dallas Stars themselves confirmed the story. So according to Leah Athapopoulos, I think I'm saying her name right, she said that the Dallas Stars have picked the shops at Willow Bend and Plano, Texas, as the site for their new arena and entertainment district. And the team has submitted a letter of intent for the new development at Plano City Council, which will be voted on Monday, June 8th. So by next week, we're going to hear more information of whether the city actually says yes to the plans or no to the plan. But apparently, according to the Dallas Stars, it sounds like it's going to happen. So the Dallas Stars came out with a quote. And it says, the Dallas Stars today announced that a major step towards a potential new arena in Plano, Texas, as part of a proposed sports and entertainment district at the shops at Willow Bend. The organization has signed a non-binding letter of intent, LOI, which has been submitted to the city of Plano and placed on the agenda for consideration at the Plano City Council meeting on Monday, June 8th. And this project would present a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for our franchise. We eagerly await the vote by the Plano City Council and look forward to continuing the conversation to be a part of the redevelopment of the shops at Willow Bend. And that's according to Tom Gagliardi, who's the owner and governor of the Dallas Stars. First and foremost, I didn't have a clue that the Dallas Stars were even thinking about moving. I knew that they were in need of a new arena because, let's face it, American Airlines Arena is not exactly the Coliseum by any means. Oh, look who it is. It's Damian. Hey,
I'm
Dave.
here. I'm here, folks. I'm sorry I left Bobby by himself.
I know you're not the only one. Tom did too because he was too busy jerking off his ginger pubes.
Dude, I was just talking to my kids because I was like, feel so bad because Bobby's by himself. And I'm like, the only podcaster I know that does a podcast by himself is Bill Burr.
Bill
So
Burr.
you're in high company.
Well, I appreciate the high words, my man. But yeah, no. So I'm pretty much just getting down to the nitty gritty. I didn't even talk about the Stanley Cup yet. So, but I do appreciate you at least making the effort. Honestly,
Yeah. On the big 4-8 today, baby.
there you go. So I actually have a interesting question to ask you. How do you feel about the proposal plan? Because supposedly the Dallas Stars announced that they're going to be proposing a DOI, which is basically a letter. I think it's like a district of lettering to the Council of Plano. It's just 40 minutes south of Dallas. How do you feel about that? Because supposedly they want to build an entertainment industry and a new stadium in that region.
I mean, they are one of the only hockey teams in that whole entire area, so I guess it'd be fine. It's not like it's basketball.
Well, the Dallas Mavericks would be part of the deal too.
Oh, well, okay. Well, then that's a little different.
Right. Well, I've never been to American Airlines Center, but I hope that eventually when I do the Dallas Cowboys, I hope to catch a Dallas Stars game. That's the only thing I care about at that point. By 2027, is to catch a game in Dallas.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
It would be, but I actually do want to ask you a quick recap question. How do you
Mhm.
feel about the rumors that have been going around lately about Matt Barzell being traded?
Well, like I said, I would have been fine years ago doing this, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Now I'm not so sure because I'm not sure what kind of return you would get. And the thing is that if you get rid of Barzell, I mean, you're going to need quite a player to replace him. Like, I mean, the rumors beginning at the beginning of the offseason were him for Brady Tkachuk, which I love Brady Tkachuk. Don't get me wrong, but we need a Brady Tkachuk to complement Barzell. We don't need to trade Barzell for a Brady Tkachuk.
Right. Well, I was thinking about this earlier during the show. You said Ottawa was brought up. I heard
Mhm.
Minnesota was being brought up, but I say that if they're going to trade him to Minnesota, I would love for them to get Brock Faber or Matt Boldy. At least one of those two would have to go back.
Yeah, I mean Bowley, he's a very underrated player. I mean, I didn't even know who the hell he really was until the Olympics.
Really?
And then I'm like, who is this dude? I'm like, wow, he's fantastic. Um, I mean, if we're trading Barzell to the Wild, then yeah, I do want a Boldy. I'll take a Quinn Hughes, of course, but I
Yeah,
doubt
Quinn
they're going
Hughes.
to be moving him.
That would be great. That would be
But
great.
yeah, it's tough. Uh, Like Barzell is kind of not lived up to his quite potential with the Islanders, but I do understand that if we traded him, he probably turns into like a 30 or 40 goal scorer on another team.
Probably, but I think it also depends on the return. Like, what about Utah? Because that came up last summer. If you remember, there was rumors at the draft because I was at the Islanders draft party for Matthew Schaefer, not
Mm,
in Los Angeles where the draft was, but the draft party was the
hmm.
talk of the town was that the New York Islanders were talking to the Mammoth a month after they announced the name,
Yep.
and they basically said we want to move up for the fourth overall pick to draft James Higgins because he's a Long
Yep.
Island kid. And
Hmm.
Darce tried, he did. And the rumor was Utah wanted Matt Barzell or Ilya Sorokin. And the
Yeah.
Islanders backed out of it because they said, we're not trading you Matt Barzell.
Yeah. Utah's smoking crack. That's never going to happen.
Yeah. But the main argument is that they want to move cap space, which I see why because Lou Lamoriello kind of put them in that mess.
I understand that, but Darsh is kind of added to the mess. And the thing is like I saw that they were trying to free up cap space in order to sign Lee. That would just be a terrible move.
It would be, but he's not coming back. It's already been all but
I
confirmed.
did see that. I did see that today, and that's fine. Like we gave Lee a very good contract. Granted, yes, he did wait around to see if the Islanders were going to sign Panarin at that time, and the Panarin deal didn't happen. He ended up going to the Rangers for slightly less money. Fuck him. And then they circled back to Lee, and they gave Lee a very lucrative contract at that time, which he did hold up to the bargain for maybe 5 years of that contract, but the last 3 were pretty bad for what he was getting paid. And it seems like he wants to get paid again, which is fine. It's his prerogative, but the Islanders need to move on. If he's not going to take a team-friendly deal at this point, they got to move on.
Yeah, I think at this point he is all but gone because I have read that Minnesota was going to take him because I was mentioning this earlier before he came on, half an hour before he came on. And I mentioned that Anders Lee is a Minnesota-born bred player, kind of like how Thomas Vanek. It's like I know that you're going to say he was born in Austria, but he played college hockey in Minnesota. But as soon as he left the Islanders because he hated it, went to Montreal, and then went to Minnesota as a free agent and played good years there. I have a feeling the same is going to happen with Anders Lee, except I think that one is a little different than I normally would expect. You know what I mean? Like, I think that he wouldn't be as, like, a star player, but I would rather think that he's going to be there as a depth piece for the Minnesota Wild because Minnesota, Billy Garrett has put the team in a pretty nice spot. You got Kirill Kaprizov, Quinn Hughes, Matt Boldy, Brock Faber. They got a good fucking team, dude. Jesper Wallstedt. Minnesota, it's a pretty attractive place.
Oh, yeah. Do you think Lee's going to go there on a team-friendly deal for them, or do you think that he is going to try to get paid?
I think he's going to take a team-friendly deal. I think because think about this. He's a free agent, yes, but he's also 36 in July. Yep, shit. I just dropped my phone.
And then, of course, if the Islanders do move on from him, who becomes the next captain?
Oh, that's easy. Bo Horvat.
I don't know if it's as easy.
Why?
Like, I would say yes. I would say Bo Horvat's probably the front runner, but he was the captain in Vancouver, and things did not go so well when he was captain.
Well,
I'm not saying that's his fault because Vancouver's an absolute shit show.
Oh, yeah. I was just talking about them 10 minutes ago about how because Bruce Boudreau went on the Fellowship of the Rink podcast, and he basically said that what the Canucks have pretty much created now, which was a boys club, guys that they all played for the Canucks, they became shittier than what they had with Alvin and Rutherford. So there's that. But
yeah, I'm not going to argue. I definitely think that I could see Lee going to Minnesota on a team-friendly deal. And I wouldn't be upset. Like I feel like the Islanders need to move on. I mean, I think he's been the longest running captain in Islanders history at this point, which is just insane to think about.
Well, yeah,
because Potvin wasn't captain until much later in his career. I mean, they had Westfall, they had Gillies for a while. Potvin became captain later, so I think he passed Potvin in the amount of years he was captain.
I mean, that's a hell of an honor, if by any means, when you're in the same category as Dennis Potvin of all people. Yeah.
Yep. So, and of course the Snake.
Yeah. Well, we don't mention John Tavares. No. But I think what we're gonna do now is we're gonna get to the last topic of the night, which is the 2026 Stanley Cup Finals, and I've had my thumb on Vegas for 2 fucking months, and I am glad I am right about this. But on the other end of this meal, you said Carolina for the Eastern Conference.
No. I had Montreal.
Right. You said Colorado, Montreal. That's
I had Colorado, Montreal. I was close, but not quite. But I had Vegas going out in the first round because I actually had Utah going to the Final Four.
I remember.
So I really didn't think Vegas was going to turn it around, and they did quite quickly.
I don't know what the fuck happened with Vegas because it's like, you had this all-star assembled team. You pretty much created the Avengers, and then all of a sudden you go on a fucking tear. I have to give Vegas credit. They're one of the most aggressive teams I have ever seen in my life. And this reminds me of like the New England Patriots with the Tom Brady era. And I don't like mentioning the Patriots, but the way Vegas does business, it's not about attachment. It's not about who did what. What they care about is winning cups. They care about winning. And I think if
As
there's one,
opposed to our Islanders that are really attached to everybody.
oh yeah, that too. And Vegas does business as the most aggressive team possible. Oh, you fired Bruce Cassidy? Tough shit. Because, well, you won a cup. Congratulations. But that was 3 fucking years ago. We want to win more cups now. They're not afraid to make moves like this. And I think that's why so many people compare them to the New England Patriots dynasty. It's because of how aggressive they were.
Oh,
You know?
definitely.
Yeah, for certain. But the Carolina Hurricanes, let's talk about them because I know you don't like them very much, but
No, I hate them. I
oh, I
hate
know.
them. I hate their fans. I hate their coach. I hate most of their players. The team is just fucking atrocious. I hate that fucking team.
Yeah, I've already heard people say this is the quote unquote worst Stanley Cup Finals matchup of all time. I'm like, no, it's not that bad. I mean,
I wouldn't go that, but it was definitely not what everybody wanted. Let's put it that way.
I don't like Carolina either, but I don't hate Vegas like everybody else does. I
I
don't
do
understand.
because fuck their fans. How long have they been around? They haven't been around a decade, and this is already their third Stanley Cup final. The Islanders
Well,
haven't been in the final since 1983.
to be fair, the Islanders went to 4 cups in the 80s, and they were not even 10 years old.
Yeah, I know, but I was too young, so I don't remember that.
I wasn't even alive. So there's that. But my point is that everybody shits on Vegas for all the wrong reasons. And I get why. I'm not saying that I'm completely blind to the
Mhm.
hatred for that team. But what I'm specifically saying is that the reason why I like Vegas so much is because they're one of the few teams that I can actually respect that does moves the way they want to do it. And on top of all that, they do things in a way where they don't give a fuck. They just want to win. It's not like, the 2010 Blackhawks where they were hiding up a sexual assault case. Okay, fair enough. But it's like with them, it's a big market. It's like, what the fuck did you expect? It's Las Vegas. Of course, people are going to go there, even if they're
Yeah.
bad. People go to big markets for a reason. And Las Vegas became a big market in less than 10 years. And look at that 3 Stanley
Yeah.
Cup final appearances and already have 1 cup, mind you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily hate them. I think it's just the fans, they need to suffer a little bit. And they haven't suffered since they came into the league. I mean, Vegas they got to the cup final in their first year, for God's sakes. And that was the only time, like, I guess, like other expansion drafts, when they had players, like, you didn't get good players in the expansion draft. You got the castaways. And Vegas got great players in that draft. Of course, they were the only team that came in that year. Usually there's at least 2 teams coming in. And they were the only team, and they just seemed to get the cream of the crop when they came in, and they made it all the way to the finals in their first year.
I do. I have to give you credit for that because now that I think about it, Vegas, a lot of people said they were going to be awful. And I'll never forget this. I remember that with the Vegas Golden Knights, I remember when the draft came in and it was in Las Vegas. And on top of all that, they draft all these misfits. They draft Fleury. Okay, we all knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
I think the biggest steal of all the players in their entire draft, I have 3 of them. Shea Theodore.
I got one.
You got 1?
Okay.
I have 3. The first one being Shea Theodore because he's still there.
Yeah.
I have Wild Bill. He's still there.
Okay.
And Brayton McNabb. He's still there.
I actually like Marchessault.
Well,
Not from Florida.
Well, yeah.
I
Marshall
mean, he's not there anymore. I don't think he's there anymore. I think they got
No,
rid of him.
he's not. He's in Nashville.
Yeah.
But
But he was a good player when he came in.
yeah, that's true. But I'm talking about from the original team that's still on there now. That's
Oh,
what I'm
yeah,
referring
yeah.
to. Hell,
The
I'll
funny
even-
thing, it was the guy that does sports talk here in Buffalo. He said if Vegas made the playoffs, that he would eat his own flip flop the first year, and he made it all the way to the Stanley Cup final. And then he pussied out and he ate a chocolate version of a flip flop.
Oh,
I'm like,
God.
you were supposed to eat a fucking flip flop. Don't pussy out now. That was Mike's show.
What, steak knives?
Yeah.
Oh,
like, enjoy that foam.
Somebody should have just told them, if the Vegas Golden Knights make the Cup final in their first year, you should just eat your underwear.
Yeah.
With shit stains.
He said, all he said was like them making the playoffs, and they made all the way to the Stanley Cup final that first year.
Oh yeah, no. I'm not exactly sure like what's gonna happen from here on out. But if there's one team of all the teams in the playoffs this year that I did not want them in this stage was the Carolina Hurricanes. I didn't care who won the cup. I did not want them there.
I agree. I their fans are very fucking annoying.
Oh yeah.
I know they were chanting no means no to Carter Hart, the goalie. And like, you idiots do know that he was acquitted, right?
Yeah,
and
these degenerates had the balls to say no means no, but yet weren't the Hurricanes one of the teams that wanted to sign him?
Yeah.
So
and then they would have loved them. So that's the way it goes.
Yeah, if you play for the Hurricanes, they love you. If you go someplace else, you're an asshole.
Yeah. So, well, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
Exactly. So so let's have a little fun with this because we're getting close to the end of the hour here, but let's do a little prediction time. How many games do you think this series will go and who wins the cup?
I don't know. It seems like it's going to be a tight series. It seems like it's going to be a high-scoring series. It really looked like Carolina was going to come away with that win until Vegas snatched it back. I like Vegas in 6.
I agree with you, actually. And the reason for that is because the one thing that Vegas has that Carolina doesn't is Vegas has a ton of experience of being in the finals. They've already been there twice. They won a Stanley Cup 3 years ago, and they know what it takes. The Hurricanes, they've been a powerhouse in the regular season, but they haven't done shit in the playoffs. And the 1 year that they make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, the fucking Panthers are in it.
Yeah. I really felt like Montreal could have taken them out. They did get steamrolled. But Montreal was kind of a young team, inexperienced too, like you're saying. And now they're finally going up against a proven playoff performer in Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas, they're no slouch. They are no slouch at all. But I do hope for their grace that, Vegas wins it at 6. But if I had to pick, and you're more than welcome to play along with this one too. If I had to pick my winner for MVP to win the Conn Smythe Trophy, I'm giving it to Mitch Marner, hands down.
Yeah, I'm saying the same thing. I just heard the stat that he was leading all players in playoff points going into Game 1, and I was like, oh, that would just be sweet for Toronto fans.
Toronto could suck my dick.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's bad enough.
If there's 2 fan bases that can suck my big one, it's definitely Toronto and Carolina.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing would be if the Leafs see Mitch Marner win a Stanley Cup 1 year after leaving, and they call him a traitor, a cancer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They do all of that, and then 1 year later, he wins a Stanley Cup potentially. Imagine the shit that they do. The Toronto Maple Leafs fans drive me crazy because they act like they're the best team in the world over Montreal or these other markets, and they have the best coverage of every team in the league because it's Toronto, and everyone talks about like they're God's ultimate, the ultimate team, whatever. And think of all the players that they have had on their team for many, many years and then treat them like shit and then have them go to another team and win a Stanley Cup. Larry Murphy, Phil Kessel, Mitch Marner, potentially. So, and one more player, Freddie Anderson. He played for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, the big loser is Toronto.
Well, what's crazy is like you look at the Athletic, and Toronto has literally six different beat writers at the Athletic covering the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Florida Panthers, who just won back-to-back cups, have zero at the Athletic.
God
It's
damn.
just it's so pathetic. It
It,
really is.
it is pathetic. But you know what, though? At the end, I will say one last thing before we get on to everything is apparently there's a trade watch going on because we mentioned trades before. Is the Islanders have now added 5 players on the trade watch for the players to be available for trade, and that's not including Matt Barzell. The players are Pierre
Really?
Engvall. Yep, there's 5 players that were mentioned, and they were all on NHLTradeRumors.com. And they said Pierre Engvall, Anthony Duclair, Adam Pelech, Andre Palat, and Casey Zizekas.
I mean, I think they could get some value, of course, for Pelech the most. I still think Casey Zizekas has got a little bit of value. Um, the other three, I would just get rid of them for a bag of fucking pucks at this point.
Yeah, because Darch has already said they're not doing any buyouts.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you could have got something for Duclair, but God, he has been so awful the last 2 seasons for the Islanders.
Yeah, and funny enough, Patrick Waugh, the guy who completely destroyed his confidence, is now getting a head coaching candidate interview
I saw
for
it.
the Toronto Maple Leafs. And same with Peter Laviolette. I
Yeah,
think
Peter Laviolette.
2 former
You know,
Islanders.
that's what's fucking hilarious though, because Toronto thinks like they're our daddy, and they're interviewing our has-beens. So who is really the fucking daddy?
Yeah, really. And not to mention, the Leafs have only one confirmed playoff win with Tavares. One.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was funny because like they took Tavares from us supposedly to get the Stanley Cup that they wanted, never got it, and then ended up losing Marner, and he might win a Stanley Cup with Vegas.
My
So
God.
it's pure just poetic justice.
Yeah, really. Honestly, they're probably the most arrogant like fan base in all of teams in the league.
Oh, it is. I mean, I hate going to I went to a Sabres Maple Leafs game earlier this season. And this is when the Sabres weren't doing that well. So Toronto came in, kind of smoked them a little bit. And then all of their fans were like in the lobby of the arena that the Sabres playing, all chanting, dancing, acting like fucking just fools. And I'm like, you know what? I would never do that in somebody else's arena. I would never do that.
Nah, me neither. I would say something like, go Buffalo or something like. If I'm going to a Bills road game,
Oh,
I would
I
say,
had chirps at people. Chirps are different, but I wouldn't be celebrating, dancing around in someone's arena.
oh, I've seen worse, Dame. I have seen worse. I got flipped off by a 10-year-old in Philly a few years ago. I've told
Yeah.
that. Yes, I've
Did you
told
beat
that.
his ass?
No, it was like 10 years old. I'm not gonna beat a kid up just for what?
Nobody has to know. You just look the other way.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be the case. But I think at the end of the day, though, we did cover a lot. Oh, I covered a lot.
You
But
covered a lot. I covered a little bit.
yeah, but that's still more than enough. Because to be honest, you saved me a lot of breathing because I went on like this for a fucking hour, Dave, of just me rambling, and I had
Yeah.
to take sips of water in between, so I didn't.
Oh,
lose
I
my
listened to a little bit of that when I was at soccer, and I was like, I don't know how he's doing it by himself.
Well, you'd be surprised. I remember I was listening to one that Tom did when I went to Alaska. This was before you came on. And
Mhm.
I went on a week trip. It was like a 7-day trip on a cruise to Alaska with my family. And
Mhm.
the next thing you know, Tom is doing a show and he's like, hey, guys. Okay, so of course, we're going to talk about this. And he was like this for himself, by himself for a
Yeah.
full hour, just
Well,
doing
Tom
whatever.
can talk, though. We know that. You and I know that. He can talk.
That's a given.
He can filibuster.
He can.
I don't know if I can, but
Yeah, you? I don't know, but as
I need
far
I
as
need to feed off of somebody else's energy. Like I can't do
me,
it.
motherfucker,
Well, yeah,
me.
of course. Come on.
Yeah, well, the only reason Tom is not here is because he had to do some errands, and unfortunately, it wouldn't get him back on time for the show. So
Yeah.
there's that. Even if it was
It was
like now,
crazy that we were both in Rochester over the weekend. Like
did you?
literally within like really close to each other.
Well, did you guys meet up at least?
Nah, I wanted to.
Why didn't you? That would have been great.
I don't know. I don't know.
Is
One
it
day.
just? Is it because he had red hair and he had no soul?
That's true. Well, I wish I knew he was going out because he went out to go see that Buffalo gal or whatever her name is
Yeah, the
at a
Buffalo
bagel
State Chicken.
place. That bagel place was literally around the corner from the hotel I stayed at.
What a fucking coincidence. Well,
I
he
was
did.
like, I was like, are you kidding me? I was right there.
He told me he was going to be there ahead of time. He's like, "Yo, I'm going to get a sponsorship for us next season
Yeah.
with the Buffalo
I didn't
Sabres."
know. If I knew, I would have stopped at Soho Bagel. I didn't even
God,
know.
God damn it! The
Oh no,
least
the
you could,
hotel we stayed at had a really excellent continental breakfast.
well, the least you two could do before we wrap up is the least you could do is meet at the draft. He's got a free ticket. You may as well just fucking go, dude.
I'll probably go. I'll probably go.
Well, how many chances are you going to possibly get at this age?
Yeah, I mean, I'll throw him 20 for the ticket. I think it was like $20 for the ticket, or I'll buy him a beer or two there, or whatever he wants.
Yeah. And by the way, happy birthday, you old fuck.
I know. Thank you.
Yeah.
48,
Yeah.
motherfucker.
Yeah. I mentioned that earlier. 48 years old.
Almost to retirement.
I'll be 34 in fucking September, dude. So you're in June. Tom is July 4th, and I'm September 11th.
Wait, you said 34?
Yeah, I'll be 34. I'm 33 right now.
God damn, dude.
How old did you think I was?
I thought you were a little older than that. A little bit.
The fuck
A
does that
little
mean?
bit. I didn't say a lot. I said a little bit.
Wait. How old did you think I was?
I thought you were like late 30s.
Get the fuck out of here.
You're fucking balding already, motherfucker.
It's not that bad.
I can see it. I can see it, dude. I got more hair than you.
God damn it.
Maybe not.
God damn it. Fine, you got me there.
Yeah, I should have known because you're having your first kid. Because I had my first kid, and her birthday was yesterday, actually.
Oh, wow, happy birthday.
So I was 31 when I had her. So
That's young, dude.
yeah, actually, for when I had her back in the day, that was late. But everybody's waiting even longer now.
To have kids.
Yeah.
Damn.
But yeah, that was late when I had her because most people didn't wait to their 30s. Now people are getting like damn near 40 to have their first kid now,
Yeah,
which
my
is
dad-
scary because when they're in high school, you're like almost 60.
Yeah, my dad had me late. He was in his 40s when he had me with my mom, and then he's in his mid to late 70s now. So there's that.
God damn.
Yeah,
Yeah, because my mom is 70. What would she be? 73.
Yeah, Tom just said Bobby is the younging of the group here. Yeah, you're right, Tom. Fucker.
I see that
Oh, you motherfucker.
because I know Tom's only a couple of years younger than me.
Well, Tom's like 45 or almost 50 at this point.
I think he was like 40, 44, 44. If I'm
He's
right.
gonna be 45 in November.
Yeah, he'll
July.
be 45.
Yeah, he'll be 45 in July 4th. So.
Yeah, okay. July 4th, really?
Mm-hmm. And I'm September
Fucking
11th.
Patriot. Fucking Patriot.
Yeah. Dame, if you want to go to the draft, let me know and spot me a few beers, and it's all good. Turning 44 this summer. Well, happy birthday, you old fuck.
Yeah, yeah, I'd be down for that.
Yeah. So I think with that being said, we're gonna wrap up for this week's show. And I know Tom is watching somewhere, jerking off. And then Dame, I appreciate you coming on, even though it's been kind of late. And happy birthday, brother.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so Tom should be back next week. And I think with that being said, we're going to head on out of here. And bottom line, we'll have a good overall time with the Stanley Cup, and we'll figure out future plans, etc. And be sure to check out the last interview that we're publishing for the year with Bill Mickelson at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I told Bill that his interview would be out. He said, "Thank you, I appreciate it. I'll give it a listen." So
yeah, that was a fun interview. I really enjoyed that interview because I didn't really know too much about him, but that was probably one of the most fun interviews of the season, actually.
I agree 100%, actually. I agree 100%. So I think with that being said, we're going to wrap on out and take care of yourselves. We'll see you next week, and peace out.
All right. Have a good week.
You too.